But every day I'm pretty happy to be doing what I'm doing.
Hola.
Hi.
Hi, Dava. How are you? My name is Rodrigo, and I would like to understand how do you do the transfer or the technology transfer to our social problems that we have. You have shown a few here, but I think that you might have a few different research. And how do you find those problems on society, and then how do you apply what you are doing or you are researching on them? This is one thing, and the other thing is I am not in the research field, so how do you calculate your return over investment of a project that seems to be sometimes so far away from our common problems?
Yeah. Okay. Two really good questions. So finding the societal application, the impact. Truthfully, I think we're behind in universities. Students and passionate. You've got lots of mature students, working professionals here, and I deal with some, but younger students. I mean, all of us probably in this room, but even younger students, they really want to change the world. They want to, make the world a better place. They're not cynical yet. I love freshmen because they're not cynical yet. They just are, want to go, contribute in a very important way. So when I say universities, say MIT, we need to catch up because the demand for, let's just, there's lots of nice studies out. Let's take the 10 most challenging technical problems. I usually look at technical problems because that's what I know the most about. But technical problems for society. So clean water, energy, transportation. We can just go down the list of really important problems for the world. Space doesn't hit till like the top 20. So not in the top 10, I realize that. Well, MIT, we're a research university here, so at the graduate level, all of our research is funded. That's my job. My job is to get a lot of research money, bring it into MIT, work on tough problems, and then I can fund my graduate students. So that's kind of our system in MIT and the US in brief. So I don't have enough support for these really tough societal problems that are, say, for global development, for underprivileged populations, because they're typically not funding me, unfortunately. World governments are funding, and that's huge. We're really very dependent on governments and world governments for research. I hope that remains strong, and economically, not so much in Chile, but this is a really hard time in the US and Europe and some places. So not surprisingly, government funding is going down. So, a long answer to your question, but how we try to make a dent, and this is really with my technology and policy program hat on, is I raise money. And I look for fellowship money for students because I have great students who want to solve really important problems for, well, look at Joaquin. He's also do, IT solutions, electronic health records for Chile, and then span that out. And he's actually in multiple countries now. So how can we fund that? Because that was a hard thing. That's a hard project to fund. But we're persistent, and we don't go away, and we look for funding, and especially, say, some projects in Africa, all over the world. But typically, those are underfunded, and we look for specific funding for those type of projects. And if we can bring in the funding, then we can give fellowships, and that's a nice place to be, because then you can let a student kind of study what they want, rather than my typical NASA contracts where, I'm under contract. So I've written a proposal, and I'm trying to do the best I can to solve that problem, but I don't get to vary from what I said I was going to do. Whereas fellowship money, let's say at the university, we look for that a lot, because that allows us much more flexibility. Anyhow, so that's a bit of an answer to your first question. What was your second one?
About the
return on investment. Well, I do really simple economic calculations. I laugh because, again, in technology and policy, this is an engineering, it's an engineering master's program we have in MIT in technology policy. So it's engineers and science. Everyone has to have a background in engineering and science, bachelor's degree. And guess what their requirements are? They do graduate level aerospace or energy work, whatever, electrical engineering. But my requirements, they have to take a law course. They have to take economics. They have to take political science. So this is they're not going to be expert, of course, but this is a way to broaden the education of very sincerely committed folks who want to It's a very international program as well. So maybe the US students want to go to Washington and change our Environmental Protection Agency, and bless them, they need to go there and do that good work. And students from all over. It's typically the Chilean students that I know, or alum that I've worked with, have come through technology and policy. Julio being the most current, but other alum, to try to come to take whatever they can from the education, but then to come back home to whatever their home country is and really, really contribute. But I answer your question. Return on investment, again, it's just going with they're just using their talents as best they can. They're very passionate, and a lot of them, of course, want to come back, and in that sense, international. Me, return on investment in space research, we've made the calculation actually as the American public to invest, not very much, but invest over $17 billion a year to NASA's program, and I think that's a significant investment. Depends on your comparison. Compared to our defense budget, it's pretty small. It's also small when you say that it's a terrible statistic, but it's true. The American public spends more on potato chips every year than the NASA budget. So you can do whatever comparison you want. If I look at the world's space programs, Russia, China, India, everyone, all of Europe, guess what? Their budget's 18 billion. US is a little bit low this year, 17. So the US investment in NASA is equal to the rest of the world. So it's, you can tell the story however you want, and return on investment, especially the investment part, and then what are the returns? Personally, I think they're worth it. And even though I'm an engineer, I don't put much stock in those, in the numbers per se. I like to quantify things. It's in my nature, but there's so much of this that's not quantifiable. And I think that's a lot of the inspiration. And if I get one little person turned on about engineering career or even science and math, what's that worth? I don't have a dollar figure, but that's pretty important. If I get that little person excited about maybe a career that's kind of opened up their minds or something. So I can't put a number on it.
Hi, Dava. My name is Gerardo. I'm a psychologist. Sorry. You just say you lead a few different teams. I want to know how you coordinate these multidisciplinary teams. Can you tell me your experience?
How I coordinate the teams? Well, I don't know. I think I learned this from Abraham Lincoln. Purportedly, surround yourself with great people. That's probably one lesson. You want to be surrounded with great people. I get a lot of energy out of great minds and great thinkers, and so it's nice to work in teams of stimulating people. And myself, I think I work much better in multidisciplinary teams as well, mixed at all levels, men and women, journalists and lawyers and engineers and the work. So because everyone has something important to contribute, and they probably are going to help me look at a problem a different way. And then collectively, we might come up with a better solution. So, I try to pay a lot of attention to teamwork. Again, honestly, this is on tape, so I don't put this all on the web. I think I'm, personally, I think I'm a little bit better at the leadership part, the vision. I'm probably not as good a manager as I should be or ought to be. I try to understand my strengths and weaknesses as well.
The other answer is she doesn't sleep.
Yeah, I work. Sometimes, no, yeah. We work really hard and we play really hard. Now that sleep part, it's optional. I read a lot of circadian physiology work. No, I sleep.
I just remembered. What do you think about if as you know, in the last 50 years, the population of the world duplicates, and we hear today in 2050, the resources we consume gonna be double planets, we only have one.
Yeah.
And also we heard today a couple from Switzerland couple who don't want to have kids because they're gonna suffer in a near future. And we are speaking about future, but we have a real problem about the resources. We don't have enough resources. The 20% of the population consume the 80% of the resources. So, what do you think about that, and how do you mix with your specialty?
Well, boy, that's a good question. It's good to have the lawyers and journalists that I get different questions. Other people just want to know about the math, you know. No, it's a great question. I can just kind of give you a personal answer to that. I don't have children with Guy, and that's part of the decision and the calculation of world population, because we all contribute in some way. We have a friend who's talked to us, encouraged us, now we're older, but even 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, you guys have to have kids, you know. They'd be good little space kids, you know. And so it's interesting to have that question, say, no, you need to have children because they're going to contribute positively to the world, because we have this imbalance, and what are we going to do? So you know, I listened a lot, because that's an interesting viewpoint. You know, my viewpoint, but it's always good. So world population is a huge problem. Resources, I don't know. It's just, I don't have great solutions for it, but we have a lot of smart people here. I mean, it's really deserves our attention, and definitely not, and not just, so there's a lot we can do. Guess what my number one answer to almost anything is? Education. I think if we could educate the world more, we would probably be in a lot better shape at all levels. Maybe producing, you know, much more food. Many, many, many nations are actually self-sufficient in terms of food production and things like that. So again, we can think about this, just how are we using the food, how, you know, how many, and the population is exploding. So I just think there's a lot to that question. Again, I don't have any better answers. You probably have better answers than I do, but you know, I can just make my own personal take on it. And then for space, sometimes I get the question, which I thought you might have seen. We're going to take this overpopulation, and we take, you know, how many billion of us and ship us to the moon or Mars? We don't have the spacecraft to do it yet. You know, that's not why we're going to the moon or Mars, is to get rid of our problems on Earth. I would prefer we come up with the solutions for Earth that make sense. You know, we're just explorers trying to find out. But there's depending on how far out you want to think, let's take energy. Guess where the world's greatest energy resources are? Space solar power. We can beam energy to the Earth, and none of us would ever have to, no one, doesn't matter how many billion people we have. It's really expensive. Really expensive. So the number's in the trillions. So technologically, we actually kind of know how to do it. Is that a good investment for the world to get rid of our energy issues? So, you know, that's just, it's kind of a far out example, but maybe there's also some global solutions. And so thinking about space and how, I mean, I always try to reverse it. I mean, how can my research, how can my space research help us on Earth? You know, that's kind of the question, because we have a lot of things to, I don't say worry about. Again, there are challenges. Put a lot of smart people together. I'm always amazed at what nice solutions kind of appear, and some simple solutions that a lot of times, like I said, don't take resources. They just took some serious thinking about it. So yeah, overpopulation has been a serious issue for the Earth. Yeah.